if Donald Trump didn't say months before January 6th that the election was stolen, which it wasn't, and the Democrats cheated and Joe Biden was an illegitimate president, does January 6th happen?
So first of all, you need to know the real true history. A lot of people don't know. There were several protests, October, November, December, permitted protests on the Capitol lawn, Stop the Steal rallies and others. The next one that came was January, which was also permitted and was approved by the Capitol Police. And in his speech, he did say peacefully and patriotically protest or walk. So, I mean, I was not there, although I coordinated buses to go there. And I had plenty of friends that went there. I would have probably been there had I not had family emergency. But, you know, here's the thing. I don't think
but it wasn't stolen, though. The election wasn't stolen.
It was stolen in North Carolina. I can prove it because we won in court.
But I understand. But Donald Trump lost in courts over 60 times. Many of the judges, some of whom were Trump appointed, said there was no merit. Donald Trump did not win the 2020 election. He lied. What's that?
I don't agree with you.
You think Donald Trump won the 2020 election? Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?
So let's talk about that. When the courts say to you, you had to come to us before the election to make this argument in Pennsylvania, for example, they said, oh, if you would have come to us before the election, we could have taken this case. But in North Carolina, what happened is we know for a fact that they did some bad things because we didn't have a very good policy on no witness. Actually, it was COVID. So we have a policy or a bill, a law that says you have to have a signature and a witness on your mail-in ballot. We had many, 350,000 without that. And we had to accept them, even though that's not the law in North Carolina. So went to court and they lost.
Right, but that's not evidence that the election, there was widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election.
In North Carolina can change an entire election.
Is there evidence to prove that those votes were voting for Donald Trump and not Joe Biden?
No.
Okay, so we don't know who they voted for, so you're making an assumption that those votes were for Donald Trump, number one. Number two, Donald Trump had 62 chances in a courtroom. He used up all his legal options. He failed. When Al Gore used up all his legal options, he said, yeah, well, I wouldn't use the term gave in. He did the patriotic thing and conceded the election. Donald Trump has yet to do that. We listened to Dinesh D'Souza, or at least some people do, which was proven to be false. Almost everything in that.
Oh, 20,000 mules or 2,000 mules?
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke. He was sued and he's lost the lawsuit, and he had to admit that many of the things in there were not true. On the record, he admitted that. And then we listened to the My Pillow guy.
He's not the only one that worked on that documentary. What about Catherine Engelbrecht? She was on that documentary. She didn't get sued. Okay,
well, I know that film got sued. There were lies in that film. There was no evidence of widespread voter fraud. And even though you're saying, okay, 350,000 ballots did this, this, and this.
You know how much Trump won by here? 1.3%.
Okay, but he won. But he won. So that doesn't. Okay, but I understand, Margo, but he still won North Carolina. That doesn't change the outcome of the election. As you know, the Electoral College doesn't change anything.
Absolutely.
The fact of the matter is, I'm not discounting the fact that there's going to be fraud in every election. I'm with you on that, and I want our elections to be fair. Why is it that before 2016, Trump was saying the election was going to be rigged and it was going to be stolen? And then something happened. Donald Trump won a free and fair election. There wasn't a Democrat insurrection. And then all of a sudden when he wins, everything's okay. We're not talking about election integrity. And then when he loses, the Democrats must have cheated and it must be rigged. Why is that, Mark?
They did protest his
nobody died. There wasn't an insurrection.
You're right. Nobody died.
There wasn't a fake electorate scheme across the country. There weren't all these election deniers out there. There was no violence. Hillary Clinton called the next day and conceded, just like Kamala Harris did. Why is it when a Democrat loses, they concede and they call, and when a Republican loses, in this case Donald Trump, he still has yet to concede? He still says he won the 2020 election and it was rigged.
He has evidence he did.
But they had the chance to show it in court, and there's been no real evidence, any evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome. And it is 2025, and he still has not conceded.
I vehemently disagree with you on the voter fraud stuff. I mean, we know for a fact that there were ballot boxes that were used in Wisconsin. We know that elderly people in Wisconsin and in Pennsylvania who had never previously voted, who normally had to vote by themselves, were used people as surrogates to help them. I disagree with you. Do I think that it was a fair election? I can't call that. I don't live in Pennsylvania. I don't live in Wisconsin. But I don't disagree. I don't agree with you that there wasn't fraud.
I never
And
said there wasn't fraud.
widespread fraud that could have changed the direction.
Margo, I just said that there's going to be fraud in every election.
I agree with that.
There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. Nobody has been able to prove that. It's been 5 years, and I believe it's rigged. Donald Trump believes it's rigged if he loses, and if he wins, everything seems to be okay. Would you have been okay if Kamala Harris didn't certify the election? Because there are some people that would claim, even people on the right, like Donald Trump, claim that it was rigged in Pennsylvania, even though he won Pennsylvania. So does that mean Kamala Harris should have not certified the election? And would you have been okay with that?
Let's talk about Pennsylvania, because, the only reason why it went the way it did is because the RNC sued 23 times. They had to sue throughout the process at every turn because some people in Bucks County decided they were going to take ballots that were illegal. The difference between this election and 2021 is COVID, and two I would say is the process is being watched under a microscope. We couldn't do that with COVID.
Where's the evidence that there was nobody watching in 2020? There are
actual recordings you can see where they put cardboard up on the windows in Detroit in the center where they count votes, where they wouldn't in Pennsylvania where you weren't allowed to go in as you were a Republican witness because there usually is a Republican and a Democrat watching on the floor when people vote. There is evidence all over this country where people were denied access to do their civil duty.
Okay, so I'm not aware of anecdotal evidence of Republicans and Democrats that weren't allowed to watch. What I am aware of is that Donald Trump, again, and I'm talking in circles here, had his opportunity to prove in a courtroom over 60 times that there was widespread voter fraud. They couldn't come up with any real evidence. I still have not seen no real evidence to this day of widespread voter fraud. And the guy who you voted for still says that he won the 2020 election. January 6th does not happen if Donald Trump doesn't lie. It's not about questioning an election. It's about lying. You're allowed to question an election and go through your legal battles. Donald Trump didn't do that. He has said to this day that he won, and there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. That's my issue there.